Good afternoon. On behalf of MIT Sloan School of Management, it's my pleasure to welcome you all to today's presentation. I'm S.P. Kothari. I'm the Deputy Dean here at Sloan School. I have the great privilege to introduce Kip Tindell, the Chairman and CEO of the Container Store Group and Chairman of the Board of the National Retail Foundation, as our guest for the Dean's Innovative Leader Series. Kip co-founded the Container Store in 1978. Under his leadership, the company has lauded for its commitment to its employees and focus on its original concept and inventory mix as the formula for its success. Kip adheres to the tenets of conscious capitalism and the company's value-based foundation principles, which center around an employee-first culture, superior customer service, and strict merchandising. The Container Store has been honored in Fortune magazine's list of 100 best companies to work for 16 years in a row. That's quite an accomplishment. You can't produce that kind of a track record without doing nothing. Kip was presented the Ernst & Young's prestigious Entrepreneur of the Year Award in 1991. In 2006, he was inducted into the Retailing Hall of Fame, and in 2009 was inducted into the Junior Achievement of Dallas Business Hall of Fame. I don't know what the junior means, I think it should be super senior, so. In 2011, Kip received the National Retail Federation's Gold Medal Award, given to individuals who have served the industry with distinction and achieved a national reputation for excellence to the retail craft. We are very fortunate to have him here to share his leadership journey with us. Before Kip begins, let's watch a short video. So on to the video, and then we will have Kip.
How do you build a business where everyone can thrive? By simultaneously creating value for everyone involved. For us, that starts with our employees. Everything that I do and don't do matters and affects someone around me. And when you feel that kind of responsibility, going to work is exciting. I can't wait to get up and get my day started. That's what I love about working at the Container Store. I don't just sell products, I solve problems by helping our customers get organized, which I know can improve their lives. I can really focus on helping them because I get the communication, training, and support I need from the company, my managers, and team. I absolutely love
walking into the store. No matter what my day's been like, I can always find a little bit of calm to take home. The employees are so happy and helpful, you can't help but smile. And let me tell you, my kids notice when I'm less stressed. When I can find what I'm looking for, I have more energy, and I can get everyone out the door on time. The Container Store is more like a friend than a company. I'm not just a vendor to them. We're partners in success.
They looked beyond the fact that I was just starting my business, and they saw the potential in my product and in me. Because of our partnership, my business has grown tremendously. We've hired more people, developed new products, and even taken on a new factory. Together, we've impacted so many lives. Our unique partnership over the years has impacted the way thousands of people think about their minds, increasing creativity, organizing their minds, and increasing their capacity to think smarter. Our connection with the Container Store
has helped us support many conscious businesses. Their commitment to their foundation principles, employee-first culture, and conscious capitalism is not just marketing spin. It's making a difference. The idea that you can make business decisions based on love and still be highly profitable is gaining momentum and credibility. And profits aren't a bad thing. They're what give businesses the ability to take better care of their employees and give more to their communities. It's not altruism, it's capitalism, being done in a conscious way that ensures everyone,
All the customers,
the employees,
all the vendors, the entire community,
and the shareholders
can all thrive
Well, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a business where everyone associated with it thrives. Think that's a pretty good idea? I think it's a great idea because you know, we actually spend more time working than any other waking endeavor. And I think it's honorable, I think it's fun, and I think it leads to more financial success for the business than any other methodology as well. And thank you, Dean, for that wonderful introduction. And how many of you were in Zainab's class just a little while ago? Very many? Okay. Well, then I'll go ahead and repeat a few things if it's just a few of you. But Zainab's class was wonderful. Just when I go into a store, the manager always comes up and shows me what the sales are to that point of the day, and I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in how the store feels and how mutually supportive and, dare I say, even loving the staff is to each other and, of course, to the customers. How does it feel? Is it an exciting place that everybody wants to be there? You know, if you walk into a restaurant or a bar or any place and it has what we call air of excitement, the customers want to be there, the employees want to be there, everybody wants to be there. I mean, Hemingway might call it a clean, well-lighted place. You know, I mean, this place that just has it. And Zainab's class had it. And everybody was really happy to be there, really supportive. Second to last day of classes, I felt like that she was probably everybody's favorite professor. And that's the way I feel about this whole school and this room. And it's delightful. That's the way our stores are, and we take that air of excitement very seriously at the Container Store. Our stores have excitement, and it's up to us to help sustain that excitement and to create it and to elevate it. And so if you have a spat with your significant other, you leave that at home before you come into the doors, and you're making everybody thrive. You're making everybody around you thrive. That's the key to success. That's the key to life. That's the key to the purposeful life. I've met people before that say, you know, Kip, I'm doing really well. I'm making a lot of money, but I'm only semi-happy, and I don't feel like I have a purpose in life. And I'm like, well, just make everybody around you thrive. Try it this weekend. Try to make everybody around you thrive this weekend and see if you don't have the best weekend you've had in years. You know, and so it does help them thrive, help you thrive, make you successful, make you happy. It's actually Audrey Robertson, who's Vice President of the Container Store here and is with me today. She's Vice President of Marketing and Community Services. And she wrote the byline of the book, How Conscious Capitalism, Enthusiasm, and a bunch of other things created a business where everybody thrives. And I think that's a good summation of our foundation principles and conscious capitalism. How many of you know kind of pretty much everything that I'm talking about when I use the term conscious capitalism? Kind of have that down? Yeah, okay. Some of you, not everybody. How many of you shopped at the Container Store? Oh, that's good. Thank you. And please redouble your efforts. And we have 3 stores right here in the Boston area, and they do great. We opened our first store in 1978 in Dallas, a tiny little 1,600 square foot store. We only had $35,000, which is not enough money to start a business with. We spent 2 years without pay developing the concept and developing the resources. And then we paid each other $700 a month for about 6 or 8 years. It seemed like forever. And then we went to $1,000 a month for another many years. And it was kind of the classic entrepreneurial start with no money. We were afraid to spend anything on anything. We drive our vendors crazy because we'd order small orders, you know, very, very often. And somehow we knew that saving space was important, but we were even more excited about saving time. I mean, how many of you have a lot of time on your hands, right? And so I don't know how we knew this, but we knew that saving time was really, really important. And I think what we do at the Container Store is we are selling the promise of an organized life. There's a Zen quality to that. You get more done. You're at peace. If I have time to pack properly, I have a better trip, you know? If you're trying to get 2 kids off for school in the morning, and they're disorganized and you're disorganized, it's terrible. they're crying, they're late, you're late, everybody's frustrated, it's not good. But if you're organized and they're organized, then you have the organized life. Everybody's smiling, the little girl's school dress is completely ironed, uniform is ironed perfectly, the sandwiches in her lunch sack are heart-shaped and there's a love note from mom in there. The husband's a little hunkier if the organized, everything's the way it should be, right? And so that's what we're really doing. And I think it's given us a tailwind because we had no idea in '78 that we would all be as time-starved and multitasking and relentlessly over-busy as we are today. A weird thing is that I went to the University of Texas and spent about 8 years down there cramming a 4-year program in 8 years. And another guy that did the same thing is John Mackey, the co-founder of Whole Foods and a good friend of mine. And I serve on the Whole Foods' board, and his co-CEO, Walter Robb, serves on our board. But that business was obviously helped by people's improved consciousness on what we eat, right? And I got to hand it to John Mackey. I think he's probably added 5 years to the average American's lifespan by raising that consciousness and changing even what the giant mass merchants sell in their store food-wise. Animal husbandry is improved and that type of thing. So he's really done a lot for the world. But he had that business tailwind of people getting more intelligent and conscious of what food was healthy and what wasn't. And I think the Container Store had that tailwind of people becoming more and more aware of how important a commodity time is and how we have to organize our lives in a way to where we can have more time so that we can both enjoy life and get everything that we want to get done. So as you go off and forge entrepreneurial paths, I would say it's really important to try to hook up to some kind of tailwind like that, some sort of macro force that's compatible with what you're doing, and that helps a lot. So we have 70 stores now, only 70 stores in 36 years. So everybody thinks we grow really slowly. But our compounded annual growth rate's about 23% for 36 years. The co-founders of Bed Bath & Beyond tell me that, oh no, you'll never find another retailer that has grown more than 20% a year for more than 20 years. So we've actually grown faster than anybody. Everybody thinks we've grown more slowly, but we don't count success by quantity of stores. You need to measure revenue growth, not numbers of stores. The first store was tiny, 1,600 square foot. Now they're all about 25,000 square feet. So we spent a lot of time just expanding the stores. And the business is based on 7 foundation principles. Foundation principles that were simply some of the greatest thoughts that I had ever heard or taught or even thought of myself. And I kept a little file of the greatest thoughts as I was in school and even thereafter. And when you start a business, you get the joy of kind of molding the culture of that business around your own life view and life philosophy. And I was very adamant about the fact that you can't have one code of conduct for your personal life and then a looser, different code of conduct for your business life. A lot of people grow up thinking that. You hear the expression that, oh, well, don't take it personally, it's just business. And it's like, no, you have to have the same code of conduct in business that you do personally. So these foundation principles are just what we stand for. And they do guide all of our business actions, and they are the underpinning of our yummy, quirky, employee-first culture at the Container Store. They liberate the employees to do whatever they want to get to the end. They pick the means to the end, but we do agree on the end. Because if we didn't agree on the ends, then we would just be 6,000 yahoos running around in 6,000 different directions, and there wouldn't be any unity at all. But it's kind of neat to think that you can realize that you're not smart enough to tell all these employees how to act in any given situation and just talk about, well, here's what's important, and then they would choose the means to the ends that are best suited to their personality and who they are. And it's remarkable. Something that takes place in San Diego is handled amazingly similarly to that same occasion arising in Boston. And we never talked about it. We just talked about the ends and agreed on those. And the foundation principles are very simple, and we won't have time to go into all of them today, but you can read more about them if you're interested in whatwestandfor.com, whatwestandfor.com. And we've also realized that these foundation principles are completely synonymous with the tenets of conscious capitalism. And conscious capitalism could be summed up by just saying that, well, business is not a zero-sum game. Somebody else doesn't have to lose in order for you to win. In fact, quite the opposite. The people that are making the most money and dominating their niches the best are the people that are out there creating win-win and win-win-win situations, as opposed to the opposite of that. So, the tenets of conscious capitalism basically revolve around having a higher purpose besides just making money. Most successful entrepreneurs I know didn't start their business just to make money. Mackey didn't start his business because he wanted to make money. He wanted to, the first store was called Safer Way. You know, I mean, he was militant about, about the food. And then conscious capitalism has to do with the stakeholder model. Do very many of you know about the stakeholder model? I bet you do. It's just that, Milton Friedman, I guess, famously said that the only reason a corporation exists is to maximize the return of the shareholder. And at the Container Store, we're like, hey, what we do is we think that if you take better care of the employee than anybody else, I mean, if you really take better care of her than anybody else, she'll take better care of the customer than anybody else. And if those two are ecstatic, then ironically and wonderfully enough, your shareholder's got to be ecstatic too. But if you just myopically focus on the shareholder, like they used to teach in business school, the magic's lost, the employees aren't happy, the customers aren't happy, and the shareholder's not going to be happy either. And a guy named Ed Freeman at Darden is kind of the father of that stakeholder model, and it's glorious. You have the employee as a stakeholder, you have the customer, you have the vendors. I love making our vendors thrive. I love it. It's a profit strategy to make your vendors thrive. You're not giving away the ranch to them. You're creatively crafting mutually beneficial relationships that lead to these incredibly profitable and differentiated win-win situations. I love to figure out how the Container Store can do more to help the community. The communities support us. We built a 1 million square foot distribution center in Coppell, Texas, and that community decided that we had to have our home office in their community, and they gave us the greatest economic package they'd ever given anybody to locate there. What happens in that stakeholder model, first of all, it's the most fun way to do business because you get to be the symphony conductor harmonizing and elevating the needs of all of your stakeholders simultaneously, and that leads to the best profit for the company. But it also causes pride on the part of your employees. Your employees are passionately proud of the way you conduct your business. A guy named Lou Carbone, who's an academic, once said that the first 25% of any employee's productivity is mandatory. They have to give that or they get fired. The next 75% of any employee in any company's productivity is completely voluntary. They only give that in accordance to how they feel about their boss and their culture and their product and all of that. So I think one of the reasons the Container Store has done well is because our employees' productivity is in the 80s or 90s rather than the high 20s or 30s or 40s. When you operate a business that way, the universe conspires to assist you. Your employees are behaving that way, your vendors are behaving that way, the community is supporting you. Your vendors, you become your vendor's favorite customer. Somebody gets the best price in the country, and it's usually the Container Store because of the relationship we have with that vendor. We can't beat the mass merchants in volume, but we can really beat them in the relationships we build with that vendor that gives us the best service and the best pricing. And it's, it's just easier to succeed in business if everybody's conspiring to assist you than if they're all laying awake at night trying to figure out how they can get back at you, right? And so one of the foundation principles is one great person is equal to 3 good people. And that's an understatement. You're 45 times better at many things than I am, and he's 37 times better than you at that thing. But in terms of business productivity, it's pretty easy to be 3 times as effective at somebody else. And so we only hire great people. We only hire about 2 or 3% of the people that apply. It is nice to have Fortune magazine running around the country saying we're one of the best companies to work for in America. We were number 1 twice on that list, number 2 twice, number 3 once. And it is nice to do it 16 years in a row. The sustaining of excellence is what's really worthy of your time and effort. We can all do something great once or twice, right? But if you can sustain it. And so great people are harder to find. We find them by, we don't even have an HR department. All of our people find other great people, and they love their work. They look forward to getting out of bed and coming to work in the morning. Their friends and family notices that, and so they come to work for us too. But you can't do excellence. You can't build the greatest retail store in America, which is what we're with all humility trying to do. You can't do all of your dreams and aspirations without great people. Talent's the whole ball game. The customers love to be helped by great people. The business depends upon great people's productivity. But you know what's cool is that your employees look more forward to coming to work in the morning if they know they get to work with great people than if they're working with a bunch of disengaged, not so great people. And I like the story. When I was in the 5th grade, there was this girl that liked me, and I knew she liked me. And but I couldn't believe that she liked me because she was the coolest girl in the whole school. She was by far the coolest girl in the whole school, and she liked me. And and so I really look forward to going to school in the morning. And and that's kind of a little bit the way, that puppy love or whatever is a little bit the way you want to feel about the people you get to work with. And I think it's more important for the employees than it is for the customers or the company. And nobody's overqualified. We pay the average full-time salesperson about $50,000 a year, which is not a lot of money, but it's a lot of money for a retail salesperson, and it's about double industry average. You wouldn't believe the backgrounds of some of the people we have working in our stores. Nobody's overqualified. I met Bernanke the other day. He spoke at a National Retail Federation conference, and I told him that if he wanted to come to work in his retirement part-time in our accounting department, that was fine. I mean, we just really aim high, and we get them and we keep them. 7 minutes? 6 minutes? Okay. I'm only 1/3 of the way through, so that's trouble. The other thing that happens is that a conscious capitalist company takes employees. You see, we're too wrapped up in our work. Our self-image, our self-confidence, how we feel about ourselves, where we are on Maslow's hierarchy of need, has way too much to do with our jobs and how successful we feel we are at it and all that. And most business executives I know are trying to run around proving to their dead father that they're a great executive and stuff like that. But we're too tied up in our work. And so these companies like Southwest Airlines or Costco or Whole Foods or the Container Store that nurture and hug and develop and train these great people, we invest 283 hours of formal training for each first-year employee, and the industry average for that is 8. And people thrive by being themselves, and there's no top-down militaristic command structure. It's servant leadership. 16 of our top 22 executives are women. In a way, I think women make better business executives than men, and it's okay to say that because only 23 of the Fortune 500 CEOs are women. So I'll quit saying it once we have something approaching parity. But right now, I think it's okay to say that. We have lots of great male executives too. But what happens is companies that treat their employees that way wind up with not just better employees, they wind up with better human beings as employees who are more self-confident and love themselves better and are able to love other people better. And I get told all the time by kids and spouses of employees that, you know, Kip, she's worked there for 20 years and it's made her a better wife and a better mother. When I started getting that at first, it freaked me out. I mean, I couldn't take it, you know, to hear that kind of thing. And now I really understand it. And, you know, all those companies I just mentioned nurture their employees like that, and they treat their families better. You know, they're happier. They treat their golden retriever better. They treat the guy at the 7-Eleven on the way home from work, you know, better. And that's how you kind of make the world a little bit better place, one conscious capitalist type company at a time. Bill Clinton's running around the world giving a speech that's basically entitled, "Charity Won't Save the World, Business Will." Business is so much more powerful and bigger than charity that if you can get companies behaving like this, you really will make the world a much, much better place. And having fulfilled, happy, team-oriented, servant leadership type, way up on Maslow's hierarchy, employees because of the culture of the business is maybe the most powerful thing I know of in terms of helping make the world a little bit better place while you dominate your niche and enjoy the fun of making a lot of money, which is okay in conscious capitalism too. So one thing I like about conscious capitalism, it's perfectly okay to make a lot of money. In fact, Raj Sisodia, who co-wrote the book Conscious Capitalism with John Mackey, has researched the fact that the companies that are thought to be the biggest conscious capitalist companies in America have outperformed the S&P index 14-1 over the last 15 years. Conscious capitalist, 14-1 over the last 15 years, that's amazing. I mean, that's just unbelievable. It sounds too good to be true, but the cat's kind of out of the bag. Most people understand that now. I'm seeing very little skepticism about the benefits of conscious capitalism. Even 6 years ago, the skepticism was overwhelming. People just looked at you like you were crazy. But now there's been enough research to show that these things really do work. Herb Kelleher, the Southwest Airlines guy, told me 35 years ago that you can build a much better business on love than you can fear. Guys mostly came out of World War II, and they came back to the United States and they created businesses based on what they learned in the military. That's a terrible way of running a business. It's just awful. But now, guys, people that do that sort of testosterone overdose, top-down military command type structure of leadership are not doing as well. And the more servant leadership, the more conscious capitalist leadership, the more nurturing, team-oriented type of leader is doing better than them. IQ is as important as ever, but social IQ is maybe recognized as even more important than that in your leaders. One of my firmest convictions is that wake, W-A-K-E, like a boat's wake, is your wake and my wake is much more powerful. Your wake's so much more powerful than you think it is. It's so much bigger. Everything you do and everything you don't do impacts the people around you and your business astronomically more than you think. I know it's corny, but the movie It's a Wonderful Life is probably my favorite movie because the whole movie is showing one guy the incredible power of his wake, right? I mean, the whole movie is just unbelievable. George Bailey, you know, and yours is too. And when you behave mindful of your wake, when you go through life and you're aware, very aware of your actions and what that causes you to do as a human being, leads to people loving you and respecting you and having more honor for you than the person who just goes through life and is completely not mindful of his wake. And the same is true for a company. You know, companies can have cost of goods sold that they never pay for, that society pays for. Unconscious, not mindful of its wake organizations are increasingly sort of frowned upon by both employees who don't choose to work there and consumers that are beginning to more and more vote with their pocketbooks and the rest of society. And that's just a wonderful thing. But the concept of wake is important as an individual, and it's important for companies. And I really believe that a company that is collectively mindful of its wake has an unassailable business advantage to any other type of company. The communities are embracing you. The vendors are bending over backwards for you. The universe truly is conspiring to assist you. We joke that even our bankers and lawyers are conspiring to assist us, you know. So, creating a mutually beneficial relationship with your vendors and communities is the most beautiful thing you'll ever do, and it's a profit strategy. Conscious capitalism is not about making a bunch of money and then giving 5% of it away. It's threaded through everything that you do, and taking care of your vendor and taking care of your employee makes you more profitable than you would otherwise be. Business is absolutely not a zero-sum game. It's not at all. I like I've had it happen a couple of times. I'm not a big casino guy because my wife hates Las Vegas, but I like it kind of. And so you can sit at several times I sat at a roulette table and the whole table was filled with my family and friends. And every once in a while, we would all just win like crazy. The whole table was winning. And it was so much fun. I just couldn't get over how much, God, everybody, it only lasted about a half an hour. But, and life is that way, and business is that way, and it's a lot more fun than winning by yourself at that roulette table. And so you can do so much more with an excellent company that's doing good for the world, but it's doing really well for itself too, and taking care of that vendor, and taking care of that employee, and taking care of that community. It's thrilling. It's the most fun way to do business. But if all you want to do is make as much money as humanly possible, as quickly as possible, I would submit to you that this is the way to do it. And Raj Sisodia, who wrote the book on conscious capitalism, has now helped us all out by saying, yes, it's better. It's 14 times the S&P index, better, and over a long period of time, 15 years. We recently went through an IPO, and I'll wrap up and we'll take some questions. And I spent a long time, really Audrey and I did, talking to all of the public company CEOs that I knew that I thought were most conscious capitalists. And I would say, Jim Sinegal, Herb Kelleher, you've run a conscious capitalist company for a long time as a public company. I'm getting ready to take my first little baby steps. Tell me what I need to do. And that was fascinating. And that led me to decide that going the IPO route was the correct step for our conscious capitalist, foundation principled, employee first, yummy, quirky culture. And it's been daunting. I mean, it's been wonderful, and it's been terrible, and it's been all of those things. But the main thing I've learned about it is that you don't have to change your principles at all. You can be just as conscious capitalist as a public company as you can a private company. I've learned that all these wonderful advisors that I've gravitated to over the years give you opposing advice the day before the quarterly call where you missed your numbers. And so that's kind of daunting. I mean, what do you do? And so Herb Kelleher says black, and then this person over here says white, and then that keeps happening, and your board members differ, and they give you opposing and conflicting advice too. So in the end, you just have to be yourself. Some of them say, go on Jim Cramer and talk about it. Some of them say, don't you dare do that. Say nothing to anybody. In the end, you just have to be yourself. But I get asked that a lot, and I thought I would touch on it. Are you glad you went public? Yeah. Are we still learning after just a year and a quarter of being public? Yes. Are you just as conscious capitalist as you were before? Absolutely. I keep telling all the analysts and the investors that it's not quarterly capitalism, it's conscious capitalism. And they kind of know what I'm talking about with that. So we know that our foundation principles and tenets of conscious capitalism will continue to serve as what really drives the value of our business, what makes our vendors love us, what makes our customers love us, which makes our employees work there for 30 or 35 years. Somebody who's been working at the Container Store for 25 or 30 years can help you with your toy storage solution. And it's not only the most thrilling way to do business, I think it's the most profitable way of doing business. And I just thank you for having me here today. Fun, comfortable group. rambling, informal little presentation. But I love the questions in the other room, and we have some microphones here, and so I hope we can get a couple of questions. Thank you. Q&A is actually the easy part.
Thank you for your presentation. I know I really like the idea of conscious capitalism, but I'm curious if you feel that it's equally relevant in all sectors, and I'm thinking specifically of medical sectors where people decry getting profits in the first place. So I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
You know, I recently had some people in Dallas interested in me taking some medical board chairmanships to try to implement a lot of these customer service and employee notions, and so I think it's an area that really needs more emphasis on it, both in terms of customer service, which you arrive at by taking better care of the employees, and I had to tell them, no, I'll probably do this till I'm 100, so I couldn't do that. But I'm seeing more and more people that are big advocates of all that go into the medical industry. That's interesting. There's a lot of retailers that are into conscious capitalism for some reason, more service organizations. But in Korea and Brazil, you see it in big, heavy industry as well. There's hotbeds of conscious capitalism around the globe. South Korea and Brazil are two of them. But I think it works everywhere. It does depend upon the top leadership being genuinely committed to it. I mean, in their heart and soul, completely, passionately. I'm so committed to this thing, it's unbelievable. John Mackey's so committed to it, it's unbelievable. Senegal, my God, he paved the way for the rest of us. You know, telling those analysts that, well, invest in Walmart if you don't like the way I pay my employees. You know, so it's easier now than it had to be for him. So I think the medical community will be there. I don't think they're at the forefront of it. Wall Street's getting a lot better on it. When we did our IPO roadshow, they all wanted to hear about conscious capitalism. I was shocked, and they kind of believed in it. I thought they'd look at me like kumbaya, roll their eyes. You know. Okay. Yep.
Hi, I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about how you build a relationship with your vendors, because you mentioned that you don't necessarily, purchase in bulk. You can't really compete with others. But how do you get your vendors to give you that price, and how do you create that relationship that you were talking about?
My wife's actually the chief merchant, and she's probably the person most responsible for whatever success the Container Store's had. And we believe in nurturing and creating these hugely close and mutually beneficial relationships with our manufacturers. It's the opposite of what retailers used to do to their vendors. You have to learn a lot about their business, and they have to learn a lot about your business in order to be able to do that. You're finding things that you can do for them that aren't very costly to you, but are hugely beneficial to them. We usually know when the valleys in the sales and production cycle of each vendor is, and we always try to give our biggest order to that vendor right in the valley of their year, when their machines are idle and they're almost having to lay people off and all that. And we're a very liquid retail company, so we pay all of our bills on time. Many of our vendors plan their whole cash flow around the payment of the Container Store. We know a lot about their business, they know a lot about our business, and we creatively craft these mutually beneficial relationships that last for decades and allow us to innovate together. We travel around the world with these people creating the world's best shoebox or the world's greatest, this or that. And this guy's the best at wooden products, this guy's the best at wire. That's how you beat the mass merchants, with better product, and that's how you get innovation, trust, dare you say love. These people become your friends as well as your business partners. You vacation with them, you come up with great ideas on the sailboat. You can get them to build a factory right next to your distribution center, because they trust that you're not going to drop them 6 months later. There's enough trust to where they're like, I call it that's pretty cool. Trust and synergy and putting your heads together and figuring out all these little things that you can do. I see Whole Foods loaning money to local farmers. How are you going to be local? None of these local farmers have any money. They don't have any capital. And now they've got Walmart as a customer. They have to loan them money, you know? I mean, and it's so cool. And then they think that the Container Store is the whole reason that they built this big successful business. So they're willing to do anything for you. And it's really joyful. You can't tell the difference between an employee and a vendor at the Container Store, and I'm very proud of that. I'm sure we've got a ranch in Colorado, and we have friends there all the time. Half of them are vendors or used to be vendors. You know, it's a celebration of life too. Plus, it makes more money than anything else. You know. So. Yes, sir.
My question is around. So you mentioned that your personal values, right? You can't separate that from the values of your business. So you can't separate your personal life from the business. Essentially, you transfer your personal values into whatever business you start. But you also talked about the fact that when you bring people on board, your employees, you try your best to make them feel welcome and to contribute whatever ideas they have as well. So how do you strike that balance between shaping the company culture with your own personal values and also allowing other people to contribute and help shape the company itself? Because sometimes there seems to be a conflict between those two objectives.
Yeah, just repeat the last part, the conflict between...
Okay, between shaping the corporate culture with your own personal values,
right.
And allowing other people who join to feel like they're part of the system as well, because they would bring their own values as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they just have to be universal, broad values like do unto others that nobody's got to disagree with, you know, that one great person, you know, fill the guy's basket to the brim, making money then becomes an easy proposition. Intuition is the key to, huh? Yeah. Right. Most people are afraid to use their intuition in work because it'll get you in more trouble than logic, but somebody very wise once said the only intuition is the sum total of your life experience, so why would you leave it at work when you come to work in the morning? But so we celebrate and teach people to use their intuition, and that's when they become their own individual genius. That's when the productivity is highest. If you're fishing, you have to cast it close to the rock or the weed that you might get hung up on, or you're not going to catch any fish. They're not out in the open, and so that's what intuition does. But it's really hard to get employees to use intuition because you make more mistakes with intuition than you do with logic. But you're never a genius, you know, if you're just using logic and not intuition at all. And so I think it's on what the foundation principles are, what the philosophy is, to where it is empowering, it's giving, it's not taking. It's not me just selfishly saying that I like mountains and I like wine and I like great food. You know, it doesn't have anything to do with me. It has to do with, that answer it at all? Sort of? C+? Tough question. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Rajat Sethi. I had the chance of doing a full semester class on reimagining capitalism with Rebecca Henderson. And one of the main concerns that came out when we were discussing it with business leaders was that it is easy to measure shareholder interests as to how well you're doing on that front. But it is really hard to measure overall stakeholder interests. And unless you have right parameters to measure that, the interest wanes out, and like you initially start off as a marketing gimmick or or making sure you're getting good returns, but then you lose the focus on stakeholders going forward. What are the measuring metrics, do you think?
Yeah. You know, I mean, all of the normal financial metrics, which a good conscious capitalist believes is enhanced by that type of conscious capitalist consciousness and behavior. But then you have other conspicuous things in terms of business productivity, you know, labor as a percentage of sales, annual turnover of employees, store traffic. I mean, they're everything. I mean, we're very metric driven. We're very communicative. We think communication is leadership. That's one of the foundation principles. We spend more time measuring people's output and happiness, and we started measuring this function in the distribution center once, and everybody had a number. You didn't know who it was, but then you posted the results the next day, and the woman that came in last couldn't believe it. She said, I thought I was pretty good at that function, and it turns out I'm the worst in the whole distribution center. And the very next day, she was like middle of the pack. So just the communication of those metrics to everybody, not just the finance team, but the creative director, being pretty metric driven and realizing that metric is not a form of some type of indentured servitude. It's liberating. It allows us to really, it's really helpful. So was that a B or B plus answer? It's better than the other one. Yeah. Okay? One last one? Okay. It's tough, Dean. Thank you very much.